And Dr. King's message, it came to people, ladies and gentlemen, because of his magnificent gift as a master communicator. He was able to articulate to white Americans what African Americans wanted, and to African Americans what be expected when freedom's prize was won. On August 28, 1963, he addressed more than 250,000 people at the Lincoln Memorial participating in a march for jobs and freedom. It drew its strength from its great diversity. From across the country, men and women from all races, religions, and political backgrounds formed what Dr. King called a nonviolent army. It represented the best in America. And on that hot August day, Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech made our nation's spirit soar with his vision of what America could be. Dr. King declared that despite temporary and bitter setbacks, he still held fast to a dream. A profoundly American dream about a nation radically changed for the better. And when you listen to or read the full text of his speech, you will find that before he talked about his dream, Dr. King talked about his economic priority for African Americans. He said, "We have come to our nation's capital to cash a check. America has given its black people a bad check. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that the great vaults of opportunity of this nation are insufficient, and so therefore we've come to cash this check. A check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. No, we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream." And then he went on to say, "I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up to live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal." My friends, if American history grows from 2 centuries to 20, his words of that day will never be forgotten. And you may recall, on April 4, 1968, a brutal assassin shot Dr. King down. He was murdered at the young age of 39, but those 39 short years had changed America forever. The man was shot down, but not his dream. A dream that was stronger than his life and more powerful than his death. He was not assassinated for simply being a dreamer. In fact, he was not sleeping when he had his dream. Dr. King was a man of action. He talked the talk and he walked the walk. His love lifted us higher. His dream gives us strength. And it is in chapter 37 of the book of Genesis where there is a story about Joseph and his coat of many colors that was given to him by his father. He said he was the apple of his father's eye. He had the gift of being able to interpret dreams. And this caused envy and jealousy among his brothers. And so in chapter 37 we find where his brothers conspired to kill him by saying, "Behold, the dreamer cometh. Let us slay him and see what becomes of his dream." This is an appropriate epilogue to review some of the changes in America influenced by the contributions of Dr. King. So let us rewind the tape back to 1963 when Dr. King told us about his dream, and then compare it with 2011 for comparative analysis. You may not believe that in 1963 there were fewer than 3,000 African American lawyers in the United States of America. Today, there are over 35,000. In 1963, there were about 227,000 African American college students. Today, there are over 1 million, some of the greatest scholars in the world. In 1963, millions of African Americans were denied the right to vote through Jim Crow segregation. There were fewer than 100 African American elected officials. Today there are over 9,000 African American elected officials, over 400 mayors of our largest cities, an African American governor of the state of Massachusetts, an African American, did y'all hear I said that? Massachusetts? Not Massachusetts. Massachusetts, an African American governor. And then we have a record number, 43 members of the Congressional Black Caucus. And yes, today, my friends, as you know, an African American, the illustrious and distinguished President Barack Obama, serves as the 44th President of the United States of America, and he and his wonderful family now sleep in a house built in part by slave labor, near the room where President Lincoln with a firm hand signed the Emancipation Proclamation. President Obama is commander-in-chief of the world's greatest military that just over 60 years ago was a bastion of segregation, chauvinism, and discrimination. And today, despite its American imperfection, stands out as a leadership icon in equal opportunity and diversity. And so, my friends, tremendous progress has been made to improve the quality of life for African Americans, thanks to Dr. King and countless dedicated men and women of all races who have made it possible. Yes, we've come a mighty long way since the elegant seamstress and queen mother of the civil rights movement, Mrs. Rosa Parks, said no when asked to give up her seat to a white man and move to the back of the bus. In 1955, she became the catalyst for the work of Dr. King. So I think we need to give Mrs. Parks and all the women of the civil rights movement a round of applause. Give them a hand. Friends, because a great freedom fighter named Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. went forth with gifts. In just 13 years of organized nonviolent resistance, African Americans achieved more genuine freedom than the previous 3 centuries had produced. This is a titanic accomplishment. It's an impressive testament and to the power of nonviolence and its love for liberty and justice. But yet, my friends, despite this progress, we cannot rest on our laurels. We still have work to do in the vineyards before sunset. We still have work to do, because 1 million African American college students, that's not enough when we have almost as many young African American men who are caught up and tied up and tangled up in the criminal justice system of America. We still have work to do, because 9,000 African American elected officials, that's not enough when that's only about 1.3% of all elected officials, and we're over 13% of the population. We still have work to do, because too many hate mongers and white supremacists are basically raising their ugly heads on a daily basis. And we still have work to do, because the African American unemployment rate is still double that of white Americans, and we have work to do, because while the ascendancy of President Obama to the White House substantially and symbolically does represent a significant down payment on Dr. King's dream, it does not represent a panacea or fulfillment of Dr. King's dream. And therefore, in the words of that 4-time Pulitzer Prize winning poet Robert Frost, we still have promises to keep and miles to go before we sleep in this struggle to achieve equality of opportunity for all Americans. And we cannot and we must not rest on our laurels. And who